Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Pables and Jables, where us non-critics completely criticize our favorite movies and TV shows. I'm JB.
I'm Brian.
Today we'll be covering the ninth and final episode of the HBO series The Last of Us, titled "Look for the Light." And I should say the final episode of season one. Brian, what'd you think of the finale?
I thought it was good. I thought it was, I'm glad that they stuck with the ending. I was really worried that they were going to change a lot of things, one of them being the violence towards the end there. But I'm really glad they stuck with it. I do have a couple of criticisms. A lot of things were cut out. And we ended up seeing once again no infected in this final episode. I
Yeah,
think pacing was kind of a big issue with this episode as well. Up until that final part where Joel wakes up in the Fireflies headquarters, everything before that it just felt a little bit rushed. From that point on, it was literally word for word, shot for shot from the game, and they just literally played it out panel by panel. So it was amazing to see in a live remake. But I do think everything before that point was a little bit rushed, and I think this could have used a solid 30 minutes more. I think 45 minutes was a little too short for a big season finale like this, and I just wish. Uh, but overall, I thought it was a great and fitting end to the series, and most importantly, it was very faithful.
yeah.
What about?
I liked it. I didn't love this episode. I think in a lot of cases, a lot of shows we see the penultimate, like the episode, second to last episode ends up being the best one. In my opinion, that was the case. I thought last week was stronger than this finale. I definitely have some issues with it, and it more so might be on like I think there's some plot holes, especially with like how they describe why Ellie is immune and how they think they're gonna like get this cure. It felt like to go to the length of like, yeah, we need to perform brain surgery on her, and she's most likely gonna die from that. Felt like super. It felt kind of unnecessary. Like it almost felt like there could have been other ways of doing this. And I get that like that is really what made kind of like catapult the episode where now Joel is trying to save Ellie. So I understand like the decision to do that, but I don't know, as someone watching and just thinking through all this, like more logically, I'm just thinking, well, I feel like there's kind of like let's take a step back and figure out like how is there a way where we could save Ellie while also maybe creating this cure. And so we can talk about that more in detail. Excuse me, but that was one of my big issues, and I agree. I thought the pacing was weird. This episode was really short. I mean, this is one of the shortest ones of the season,
Yeah.
which was surprising. I think some of the stuff in the beginning was cool, like the some of the talks that Ellie and Joel are having, especially when we the audience we find out that I don't think we knew this before, but the scar on Joel's forehead was actually him attempting to kill himself. Like I think a day or two after Sarah died. So I thought that was really interesting and an interesting reveal. And I thought, the way he would, I guess like one of the reasons he was telling her that was you can tell like from the start of this episode that Ellie was, really like distraught over what happened to her, right, in the previous episode and just like everything she's been through up to this point. And she's not the same person. She's not like the same happy-go-lucky teenager, right? Like she's very quiet and you can see, Joel sees this. And I thought that conversation, when he tells her that and kind of like got to the reason of why he was telling her that, I thought that worked. So I thought some things worked, but I don't know. To me, a lot of there was some plot holes in this. However, it did bring us to like a really awesome kind of montage where Joel is just like killing 15 or so fireflies. When I was watching that, I was thinking in my head, I was like, all right, Bryant got his, his savage Joel, right? Because they didn't nerf him, they didn't nerf him in that scene. He went off. So I mean, I thought that was cool, but
Gotta say though, for the character that they had established and for his level of ability, it was a little far fetched for me to take in because oh, okay, they established that this guy, he's easy to sneak up on. He falls asleep on watch, and now you're me out of nowhere. Now he can take on 15 people in a hospital. I just felt like, the
Yeah.
Fireflies were always screwed if the show version of Joel can walk in and do this. The video game version was he was a killing machine. So it was
Mhm.
like, okay, he's just doing what he's always done to everybody else, to the Fireflies. But this one, I just thought, for what they were trying to do earlier, I'm not sure if the characters actually fit. But again, I'm just happy to get that scene. I thought I really was worried that they were going to tone it down, and I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the beginning first,
Yeah.
because so in the game, what I really like and what they portrayed in the show is that their roles were kind of switched, right? In the very beginning, now it's Joel, the one that's like really opened up, and he's trying to make conversation. He's trying to, say things that she wants to hear. Do you want to play the guitar? Hey, I found a board game. Do you want to play? And I really, really like that from the game, and I like that it carried over. I also thought Bella Ramsey's performance, where she acts so lost in thought, and she's just, a little bit cut away from the conversations with Joel because she has so much on her mind. I really like that portrayal. In That's almost done exactly as it was in the game. But I wish they kept, Ellie talks about a dream that she had in the game, and it was like a big foreshadowing dream. And I really wish they kept that part in, but that's a really small thing to complain about. Another really cool thing that I really liked was Ellie has to help you with a lot of stuff, right? So, constantly you're having her mount over you so that she can grab a ladder, or, you're constantly throwing her over. And in the part in the game, they did this exactly right. She's so lost in thought. Joel goes over and he's like, "Okay, come on, I'll hoist you up there." And Ellie doesn't go over. So in a gameplay mechanic, you're like, "Whoa, what's going on?" Right? And I really like that touch there. Also, the giraffes, amazing. That
Yeah.
was
That was
one of
cool.
the most beautiful parts
Yeah.
in the video game, and they even kept the music. They even
Yeah.
kept the music and the interactions and everything just the same. And I'm just glad, they changed so little in the most important scenes in this segment from the game. So they did it justice.
Yeah, and I mean that that makes me happy to hear, and I think overall this show they've it seems like they've done that. Obviously, they've made the changes where they thought they were better, but from for the most part they've stuck pretty closely to the game. I think that's a good thing to do, especially in the finale, because obviously the game was a huge hit. So I think like going against that and changing too much, especially in the finale, would be probably not the way to go. So. Um, yeah, no, I mean, I liked everything that you mentioned. I thought, like, even when you mentioned the ladder thing, like even subtle things like that, I was like, oh, I could see this being something that
Yeah.
like you do in the game, like a press circle to hoist Ellie up or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that kind of stuff's cool. When the draft part was cool, it kind of reminded me like Jurassic Park. Like I don't know, just seeing like these like huge animals and she's like feeding them, and then like they pan out and they're kind of walking like in the in the overgrown like baseball stadium. It looked like that was kind of cool. um, yeah, I thought going back to the beginning scene, I thought that was really interesting because, this whole time I've been wondering, well, why is Ellie immune, right? Obviously, that's one of the bigger questions that I'm sure everyone's had. And I'm glad they showed that. And again, I was a little iffy on kind of like, we'll get to that again because Marlene really like explains it kind of closer to the end when when Joel wakes up. But anyway, I thought it was cool to show her mother and like show her birth. And it was cool that the woman who played her mother is the voice of Ellie in the game.
Ashley
Um
Johnson.
Ashley Johnson, yep. Yep. So that was pretty cool. And then we got to see Marlene, right, as well. So like we know that there's because now we know, oh, Marlene actually like has known Ellie since birth, right? I initially thought, from that very first episode of the show, like I thought Marlene just found Ellie after her and Riley got bit at the mall, right? But it's actually like, yeah, she's been watching over Ellie and like kind of protecting her, right, this whole time. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and it brings you back to that first conversation that Ellie with Marlene, where Marlene knew who she was already, right? And
Right.
it's
Yeah.
she's already keeping. She knew exactly what she was doing at the Firefly School, and now you see why.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the Fedra school, actually, she was in
oh
Fedra
yeah,
school.
yeah, yeah,
So,
that's
and
right.
I was thinking about that. Like, I'm assuming Marlene was kind of doing that for Ellie's safety. Like, she's not going to have her be a Firefly as a kid, so let's put her in Federal School. And then, I don't know, at some point, like, I don't know, take her out or something. I'm curious what the plan would have been there, but
I do think Ashley Johnson, was awesome to see her acting in a live action role. It was pretty freaky though to hear Ellie, just constantly be hearing Ellie's voice, coming out of Ashley Johnson like that. It was just so weird.
yeah,
And Ellie's
yeah,
holding Ellie, a baby version of Ellie.
yeah.
The mental part of it was just so weird.
So what are your okay? So wait, so in the game, right? That they don't like actually show like that scene, right? You're
Right.
saying that you find that out through like a dream,
No,
Ilya?
so you're the thing with Ellie's mom,
So
right?
yeah, you don't see, yeah, exactly.
No,
Yeah, you
you
don't
don't.
see any of that. Okay.
You don't see any of that. The dream that I'm talking about is she dreams that she's riding an airplane and it starts crashing, but there's nothing she can do. Uh, so
Okay.
it, but yeah. So apparently, I looked this up because I was really interested and as to why we never got this. But Neil Druckmann, the original director of the video game and the producer of the show, was trying to make the backstory of Ellie's mom another video game, a spin-off video game, or a spin-off TV show or something like that, where he gets to flesh it out. But apparently, both were rejected. So I'm glad we were
Okay.
able to get a small piece of that through the. It made a lot of sense. The only way that I could see somebody being immune to something like this, right, where she's just born as she's getting bit. But then, at the same time, I mean, obviously, it brings up a lot of questions. But I really liked the part where Marlene says no, like she can't kill her, but then obviously realizes like it's what she has to do, and
Yeah.
then tells the baby to cover her ears. Then did you notice the guy never
He
covered
didn't
the?
cover her ears. Yeah. I was like, what the hell? Yeah, he didn't cover her ears at all. I'm like, dude, it's a newborn baby. What are you doing? He's just like, what's that guy doing? Like, he had
Yeah,
one job in that moment, just to
he
cover
just
her ears.
disobeyed her.
Yeah, yeah. And then the way Marlene just like trots into that, like marches in that room and just no hesitation after like she decides in her head she's gonna do it was, it was powerful. It was powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's cool that you like looked into that and Neil Druckmann was trying to make a kind of like a spin-off about her mom. I mean, now I have all these questions like where was she even like we just find her like she's running through the woods. Like where was she before then? Like how did she get involved with Marlene? Like I have all these questions now.
She
Um
must be a firefly. She must be a
yeah,
firefly.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, which is interesting. Um, and I think like it was kind of cool too because you could tell her mom was like a bit of a badass and like she had, like kind of that same like gravitas as like Ellie has, like where she doesn't take anyone's shit and she's like, she'll mouth off when she needs to, but she'll get shit done. And like I don't know, like just seeing that, those 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes of her mom like going through that scene kind of was like, oh yeah, this she Ellie is her daughter for sure, right? Like I could see that, right? So I thought that was kind of cool. I thought that was really cool that they like some of the stuff is brilliant that they do, like to add that into the show where it wasn't in the game, and it I thought added to this episode a lot was amazing. Like I think some of that is brilliant what they did. Yeah, I definitely question like the science of it, but again, like this is a fictional zombie fungus show. So like I'm not gonna get too crazy with it. That's not even the part I
Yeah.
have issue with. I think like, yeah, she got bit while Ellie was still like while she was still pregnant with Ellie, even though it was like at the very, very end of the pregnancy. I guess, I could buy that. I have more of issues with like what the Firefly doctor was like, what their whole hypothesis was of like how they needed to kind of like create this cure. And again, we'll get to that once we get like later on. But yeah, I thought it was cool how they showed that because I was really curious about like why she's immune. Um,
Yeah. So I also wanted to talk about one more thing before we start talking about
sure.
two more things, but so in the show we get something very different from the game where he talks about where he gets a scar on his head, and I thought that was a really really good touch. It's very different from what the video game did, but the video game, Joel alludes to thinking about suicide a few times, very very early. But here we talk about how he actually tried to do it, but he flinched at the last second.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was a really nice touch. Um, in the game, there's three different moments where somebody tries to talk about Sarah, and Joel either shuts it down or turns it off, or he just completely ignores them. And I wish they kept those moments in the game. First part is when they go to meet Tommy. Tommy tries to give him a photo of him and Sarah, and Joel literally glances at it for a moment and gives it back, says he doesn't want it, right? And then a little bit after that, when him and Ellie really start to bond, Ellie tries to bring up Sarah, and Joel starts talking about it just like a little bit. He talks about how he used to be married when he was young. He had Sarah when he was very young. In the video game, he's a lot younger. I think he's supposed to be like 50 or like
I think
late 40s.
his mid 50s in the show. He's in his he's like
Yeah,
56 or
50.
something. Yeah.
But I think he's supposed to have Sarah when he's like in his early 20s in the video game.
Mm-hmm.
But then Ellie keeps asking questions, and then at one point Joel says he's just like, okay, and Ellie's like, is that too much? And Joel just says that's too much, and they move on and they just drop it, right? And then we get when he gets to the medical tents, the exact point where he is with Sarah or with Ellie in this very episode, and he very openly talks about Sarah, and it's a
Yeah.
huge change.
Yeah.
And he tells her exactly what happened. Ellie is like, I'm so sorry you lost your daughter, Joel. And that's all right, Ellie. Thank you. And Ellie gives him the photo. He gives him the picture. And this time, Joel accepts it and he puts it away. And it's a huge symbolism of as to how he's finally accepted Sarah's death and moving on. And that was one of my favorite game. And I just wish they kept that little series, his growth. But they did it in a very different way. So I'm still glad we got that moment, kind of. But
We did. Yeah, but they could have. I mean, I that sounds like a pretty powerful scene, and they could have. They had the time to do that. I mean, they could have. That could have been another 2 or 3 minutes, right? And it wouldn't have taken away from the episode. So, I mean, I don't know. Just hearing that, I kind of wish they did that. I mean, yeah, I think, like you said, they did it in a different way, and I got the feeling because he openly mentioned Sarah twice in this episode. I think so. From this, I got the feeling like things have changed with him. I mean, both characters have changed drastically throughout the episode, the show, right? Like Joel has changed to become like he is loving Ellie like his daughter basically now because it's like the only thing he has in the world to care about now, and I guess Tommy as well. But Ellie is like who he's like taking care of, and is like her
yeah,
father figure. So he's kind of become more open, while Ellie has seemed to kind of close herself off a bit. Like you can tell that like there is a darkness in Ellie that wasn't in this episode, that wasn't in it before the events of last episode, right? And I think that's really interesting, and I think that's foreshadowing for the next seasons when they get into like start covering the second game and all that. Like, I mean, I know like a big part of it you play as Ellie, so I think like that's gonna be we're gonna kind of see a lot of that kind of come to fruition.
yeah,
Um, but it's interesting, like you just see how and also the relationship's different because now Joel is open to talking about Sarah with Ellie. And they can kind of and
yeah.
he opens up about like attempting suicide. I mean, that's like one of the biggest
Huge.
it's a huge secret, right? Like that he's been keeping from maybe anyone. Like I don't know who if he's told anyone that. Like we don't even know if he told Tess that or Tommy. Like I have no idea. So that's huge. And I thought like they got that message across well, but I kind of wish they also added in what you said because that sounded like it would have been pretty powerful.
It wasn't even a cutscene. You're just scavenging around, and then Ellie just tries to give you this photo, and they talk about it, and
Yeah,
it's so good.
yeah,
But yeah, another. So I mentioned, they cut a lot of parts out from this part of the video game. So there's a huge segment where you go underground and you fight a ton of infected, and it's the only way through this tunnel. And you end up coming across like four different bloaters, and literally an army of infected, and you have to fight your way through. And I really wish they kept that. Just one, because we hadn't seen any infected, and this is a series finale, right? And I just
yeah,
felt like this kind of needed infected, right? But two, because that whole segment ends with there's a point where they have to hit the water, and Joel gets trapped in a bus, and the bus goes under. And in the show, even in the show, in the game as well, it's established that Ellie doesn't know how to swim, but she jumps in anyways to try to save Joel, and then they end up busting out. But it looks like Elliot drowned, and Joel's trying to perform CPR, and the Fireflies gun against his head, tell him to get on the ground, but he's just trying to save his life, doesn't even care about the gun.
Mhm.
It's just a really powerful again because he's just performed CPR, and then they knock him out, and he wakes up in the Firefly headquarters. And that whole segment, I really thought they should have kept that part. Instead, what they did was, they just get hit with a flashbang, and they're just taken
Yeah.
out right away, right?
Yeah, it seems like what they did in this show was kind of avoid a lot of like the big set pieces that there could have been from the game, right?
Yeah,
And I think that's a big reason for like the lack of infected, and they've actually talked about that too. Like I've seen it's been a common complaint from a lot of people,
yeah.
and I think they even said that, like the showrunner said that in the next seasons there's gonna be some bigger set pieces. And I was even reading a little bit about like the second game and how like there's some big
So
and they're gonna have some probably like more infected. But I think like even that part you described with
yeah.
like the bus in the water, like it's just like another big set piece they would have to like I don't know, develop and build and film. And I don't know, maybe that's just something they felt like they didn't need for the show. I
So
don't know.
I guess that I'm a little confused with that because I read before early that they got a huge budget for this show. So I just
Well, I'm sure. I mean, I mean, yeah, like even what they did would require a huge budget though.
did it just go towards paying Pascal? Just,
I mean, there's some still like really good set. I mean, there's a lot of cool.
yeah, there is.
I think there's some like I think like some of the landscape shots in this show are a little underrated. Like even I mean, even like with the drafts, like that was a pretty cool shot of just like the whole city, and they had some in Boston. And even like when they got to like at the very end of this episode when they got back to I think it was like Tommy's town or whatever. Like even that
Yeah.
just that like landscape of like the mountains, right? So I mean, like I think like there's still some like really cool like shots they did, but
But apparently,
I don't know what the budget was for the show, and I don't know really how much it cost to like
so
even.
don't quote me on this, but it was supposed. I read that it was supposed to be $10 million an episode, which is
Oh
an
wow,
absurd amount.
yeah, that is a lot
So
of money.
so I just and it's so I'm just yeah I don't know, but so I'm just surprised to see so many moments where it seems like money was kind of an issue. I
Hmm.
guess. So, but yeah, if they're gonna fix it in the second season, I do think it was pretty problematic here, especially in this final episode, and especially because episode 3, an episode about two characters that have no effect on the main plot, they got an hour and a half. Bill and Frank's
Yeah.
episode was an hour and a half, so I don't understand why the longest episode of the show is an episode that has no effect on the main plot. It was a good episode. It was a good episode. I will say that. But I'm
Yeah, I mean,
just
I felt the same way. I think the longest episode was the very first, which was like it was like close to an hour and a half, and then that Bill and Frank one was like an hour and 15. I was looking at these last night. I agree. I mean, I wouldn't. I think that episode did have some impact on the plot in terms of Ellie and Joel's relationship moving forward. I think that was kind of like a lot of the point of that. But I agree. Like I mean, how long? I think this finale was like 45 minutes of like actual
5 minutes.
runtime. Yeah, and then there was like a good solid 10 minutes after the episode where they like kind of interviewed Druckmann and all that what they do. So I agree. I mean, there was definitely room for some more. We didn't get it. But I think, I don't think it's a huge issue with this episode. I think like it was still done pretty well. And they did probably a lot of things they wanted to do, but yeah,
I
it definitely left me wanting for a little more. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
I felt so starting to really get worried with the way the episode was going just because I felt like they were rushing things. Very ending um was brilliantly done. So and it seems like, they just wanted to make sure that they got that last like 25 minutes correct. So but let's talk about, your main issues. I would love to hear your thoughts. I do
Yeah.
think no, I know what it is, because uh but I
Well,
would
but
love
before we get to that, so one more thing. So um goddamn, they are easy to sneak up on. Like that was bothering. That's bothering me the whole show, the whole season. But even here, they're just walking through broad daylight. They're just walking through the middle of like Salt Lake City. And that was just I'm like these aren't, and also like these infected aren't like vampires. Like they could pop out of nowhere. Like there could be fireflies, and that's exactly what happened. There could be raiders. Like they're just walking around. He has his
Reading
gun
the
over his
pun book.
shoulder. She's reading him the pun books. And I'm like, dude, and then it happens again. They got snuck up on again. And Joel had literally no chance of doing anything in that moment. Like they threw a flashbang or gas, whatever it was, and that was it. And if that weren't the fireflies, they could have just murdered the two of them right there. Like and this has happened a lot of times in this show. That's definitely bothered me. I get that, like, you can't, it can't be like that realistic where they're always sneaking around at all times, because that wouldn't be fun to watch. Like these conversations that they have while they're walking and stuff, I like that, and I'm glad we have that. But I don't know, they could be a little more subtle with it. It's just like they're just walking around in broad daylight, like there could be nothing out there, and it just
I didn't even think
baffles
about
me.
I didn't even think about that. You know,
Yeah,
but you're absolutely. Sam and Henry snuck up on them very easily,
super easily.
multiple times. Multiple times, Joel has just fallen asleep when he's supposed to be on guard duty.
Yep, yep.
So if any one of those times,
Now I will say, and you kind of brought this up, when he does not get snuck up on, he is a force. Like we saw at the end, the end where he's killing all the fireflies in the hospital. And it was done a little too easy. Like he was just kind of like it was a little John Wick style where he's just shooting and no one can hit him. But again, that's just like cinema, right? I guess that's just how it is.
Where was that the whole season, bro?
Well, I know. They went with it here. But like when he doesn't get snuck up on, he's a killing machine. He's a force. And when he has a chance to sneak up on you, like we saw in the last episode, where those the dudes are like searching the houses of the neighborhood to find him, and he's sneaking up on them and just destroying them. But man, he is easy to sneak up on himself. That's the way to kill him. If he was a boss in the video game, you have to just sneak around him and then get him from the behind, and you're good. Anyway, so what do you want to talk about? Because I know the meat of this episode happens after they capture Ellie and Joel, and Joel wakes up. So let's just go from there. You want to just go from there?
Yeah. So obviously, they wake up and she explains why they have to kill Ellie, right? And I think this might be your issue too.
Yes.
But what annoys me is that she is, to their knowledge, the only immune person in the world, right? And their immediate reaction is going to be to cut her, split her head open and remove and try and make a vaccine. You would just think, first of all, that they would run a lot more tests and just be absolutely certain, because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yes.
And
yes,
the way that that things have been going for the Fireflies, obviously, they're not incredibly adept at what they've been doing either, right? So it's very easily possible that they could just mess this up and Ellie would just die for no reason, right? So
yes, that is my biggest issue. This feels like a very rushed hypothesis and direction for them to go. And so I'm going to read you what how she describes to Joel why they think she's immune and what they're going to do. Okay, this is from the show. She says, our doctor thinks the cordyceps has been growing in her since birth. It produces a kind of chemical messenger. It makes normal cordyceps think she's cordyceps. It's why he thinks she's immune. Okay, so let's stop there. Actually, let me finish. And then she goes, he's going to remove it from her, multiply their cells in the lab, produce those chemical messengers, and then give it to everyone he thinks it can be a cure. Okay, so first of all, why? So if they're going to remove the cordyceps from her, okay, why do they have to remove it from her brain? Because if it's been growing in her, huh?
It goes on the brain.
Right, but it's clearly like in her arm. Like you can see the little tendril scars in her arm. And it didn't like start in the brain, like it grows throughout the body, right? Like we've seen that. Like someone gets bit and it takes a certain amount of time for the cordyceps to get to the brain, where then it, injects whatever like chemicals that allows it to take over the brain. Mm-hmm. So I don't quite understand why they like I took that as there is cordyceps kind of like all in her body, possibly. And why they need to like take it out of her brain and most likely kill her by doing that felt like I didn't understand that. And maybe
Yeah.
maybe I'm supposed to think maybe we're supposed to think that it has been only growing in her brain, and that's why they have to, like, yeah, basically perform brain surgery and remove it. But at the same,
Yeah.
but I also question if there's a bunch of fungus growing in her brain, maybe she wouldn't be like infected or whatever, but like she would have issues. Like she would like her brain would not function properly. It's like
Yeah.
like you have a tumor growing on your brain, right? You have a brain tumor, like that starts to like seriously affect like your brain function. So like I don't know, none of that really lines up to me. It felt like a sloppy way of them being like, yeah, we need to kill Ellie, and then that leads to all the events of what Joel does.
Yeah.
That's my
Right.
biggest issue with
Yeah,
it.
I do think that, obviously that is the main purpose, is to like create that moral dilemma where Joel has to choose Ellie over essentially the future of humanity. But I do think you have pretty valid points. First, so the way that I interpreted it is that the core part, like the one that controls the person, right, is the part that grows around the brain, right? So that's kind of how I interpreted it, because, and then that's what causes the body to change and everything like that.
Okay.
And them to act all feral, right? So I don't know if, even if they were to take like the part growing out of her arm right here, I don't know if that would change anything. But if it is fungus growing over the brain, so she would definitely not just be normal.
No, no, she wouldn't just
Yeah,
be like, yeah. I mean, and like, I also don't really quite understand when he says so. It produces a kind of chemical messenger. It makes normal cordyceps thinks she's cordyceps. What is normal cordyceps? I don't understand. So they're saying there's a different type of cordyceps that's been growing in Ellie since birth. Why would that be the case? Like none of that made sense to me. So basically, it's the quarter. They're saying the cordyceps in her is like essentially like telling that the cordyceps that has been infecting humans that she is already infected, I guess. It's which is why it can't like well, I don't know. That's not necessarily true either because even the
but then what it
infected have attacked her.
yeah.
So that's not what they're saying either. I don't know. That didn't make sense. Like what is normal cordyceps and what is the cordyceps she has? How is it different?
I will say, in the game they left it a lot more vague. They just said, um, she's different. Whatever she has, we need to extract it, and we can turn it into a vaccine. And they don't really explain it as much in detail. And I'm wondering if that was the better route to go.
So, I mean, I love like I think the science of that stuff is cool and like even like the pseudo like obviously this is fiction, right? But like I don't know if I would have liked it to be vague. I do like having some sort of explanation. At the same time, I think this explanation is bad. Like I think this they kind of dug a hole here. Um and I don't think it's not like ruining the show for me at all, but I did not like this at all. I did not like this explanation. Like I was listening to her and I'm like, what? Like none of that makes
Yeah.
sense to me. And it's not explained. And so maybe going vague, I would have liked more because then it just leaves it more for my interpretation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they didn't really care about the science of it, and that's fair. They cared about just the repercussions of everything happening, and that's fine. But they tried to have an explanation for it, and I think they botched that explanation. And I have a problem with that. That's
Yeah.
probably one of my biggest problems of this season, to be honest. I don't have a lot, but I just did not like that. I really did not like that. And also like
Yeah.
to just be like, all right, we got her now. Like, let's just remove it. And like, how do they know this is gonna work? Like you said, like, couldn't you run some more tests? What if
That's
you
what
did
bothers
try
me.
to remove some from her arm or another part of her body and try to multiply those cells? Like they're, they didn't seem like they were in any sort of like immediate danger at the time where like they had to do this now. It seemed like they rushed into it. And obviously Marlene has known this about Ellie for a little bit of time now. So like I'm sure like she had her Firefly doctor or whatever. Like they've been thinking about this, but they haven't had Ellie in like to run tests on until this point. And now Joel wakes up and like, yeah, we're there. She's in brain surgery. Like I just I don't know. I don't know. It just felt rushed.
I
Felt
also
forced.
felt like, um, if she just let Joel talk to Ellie about it, I think, Ellie, I mean, I think personally that Ellie would do the surgery
Yep, I
Right?
agree.
No, it's Marlene doesn't give her a choice, and then doesn't allow Joel to talk to her. And I just that part's kind of messed up to me. Just let the man say his goodbyes. He just got so attached. He just got a new daughter. Now he's
Yeah,
about to lose.
yeah, I totally agree. I think, and they basically say that like Ellie would have done what it would have wanted this to happen. Like she wanted, like they came this far. This was the whole point, and like if she was told like, hey, we think we're going to have to, like, you're gonna have to die to save humanity, she would have done it. I think she would have done it. And I agree. Like she could have, if they let Joel go in there and she like convinces Joel, like, hey, I want to do this, he's not gonna go on a killing rampage. Like then he's going against her wishes. But instead, Marlene botched this whole thing.
Yeah, messed it up.
She's like, no, we didn't tell her it would be painless. It's like, he's like, fuck that. Like I just like this girl, like I care about this girl now, and you're just gonna. He's like, and I did this whole thing, like the whole thing pissed me off because like he brought her. Him and Ellie herself are the sole reason that Ellie's even there, and that Marlene even has this opportunity to do this. Like she did not, she played no part in getting Ellie to where she's at now. And so then to just treat it like that and treat Joel that way, and then like
Yeah,
he tries to get him, he's like, take me to her, and they just like hit him, and she's like, take him out, and if he give him his pack, put him on the road, and if he does anything, shoot him. It's like, what are you doing? Have you not seen, like, you don't make an enemy out of Joel? Like she was dumb. She was dumb in this episode. And honestly, I'm kind of glad he killed her at the end. She deserved it. She botched it. Okay, she botched it.
agreed. Yeah, agreed. It was in the game. The guy's even worse because he's like the dude just glaring at Joel. The guy, the military, the other Firefly, he's just glaring at Joel. He's like mocking him and stuff. And you're like, oh, dude, I hope dude dies, bro.
And he kills
But
everyone. He even killed the doctor. That was that part. I was like, Joel did not need to do that. And I was in that part. I was like, Joel is not a good dude, but he is doing, like, he is basically, you understand why he's doing all this. Like he is protecting, he's saving like this person that he loves now. But
yeah,
he got a little too insane where the doctor picks up a little scalpel. Joel could have just hit him in the face and the doctor would be like, oh, and then he would have gotten Ellie. He didn't have to shoot him in the head. That was aggressive. That was very aggressive.
he listen. That is going to be a huge for season 2. That's all I'm going to say.
What'd you say? You
But
cut up.
oh, what Joel does here, it's a big plot point for season 2. So
Okay.
you know, there are, as the big thing with like Neil Druckmann is that everything has consequences, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. Something in the game when you the doctor, first of all, you have the choice to kill the other two, the two nurses, and
Okay.
it's like but the one nurse literally she screams out, "You're an animal," and and I thought that was really fitting for how terrible the situation was, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the game, dude, you can kill the doctor in any way. You can shoot him, you can flamethrow him, you can shoot him with the crossbow. But if you just walk up to him, Joel will literally rip out the scalpel of the guy's hands and he just stabs him in the throat, dude.
Jesus. My
It's
God.
brutal. It is
Very
sad.
brutal.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then the nurse is like, "You're a fucking animal," and you're like, "Dude, that's messed up."
What'd you do? What'd you decide? Did you kill the nurses or did you let them go?
No, I always let the nurses go. I could never bring it to myself. But it's hilarious because those two nurses, one of them's a male and one of them's a female, and the female is like insulting you. She's like literally asking to die, and the male nurse is like, "Shut the fuck up, shut up."
That's funny. That's funny. I feel like most people who played the game would probably kill everyone in the room. Yeah, except Ellie. It's
But
like
then,
it's like those Grand Theft Auto choices where they give you the choice and it's like,
yeah,
say kill the innocent person or not, and you're like, screw it. And uh,
but yeah, it's a brutal part in the game, and I'm glad they kept it. I actually really like Pedro Pascal's completely dead expression.
oh
You know,
my
when
God,
he
yeah.
when he shoots the doctor, when he shoots Marlene,
Yeah.
even when he in the middle of the montage, right? There's a guy who puts his gun down and is like begging for mercy, is like putting up his hands, and Joel just with a dead ass face, he just shoots him dead.
Well, he's too
And I really
smart to like let a guy, and then he keeps walking. The guy just picks up his gun again and then attacks from behind, right? Like he's and in
everybody
that moment he's just full of rage. Like his adrenaline's just through the roof, and he's just killing everything in sight. Yeah,
nobody.
yeah. Um, but yeah, no, and I think you know, the last couple scenes with him and Ellie, and like I was like, please, Ellie, ask the question. Like I wanted her to confront him about like, were you lying to me? Like what actually happened? And I'm super happy she did. And he lied to her. I actually did not. I was like very torn of like, what is he gonna do? Like, is he going to lie to her, or is he going to tell the truth? And he lied to her. And I don't know. That was he shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have done that. In my opinion, I think that was
What
if
a
he. Yeah, go
if
ahead. Go
you
ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
if you what.
No, I just thought, and that was like how that was literally the last scene of the season. That's how they ended it. He goes, "I swear." She goes, "Swear to me the things about the Fireflies are true." He goes, "I swear," and then she like kind of gives a nod, and that was it. And I was like, "Holy shit!"
What a heavy okay, she says at the end.
Yeah,
It's just so there's so many different layers. It's like first of all, you can kind of tell that she knows he's lying.
yeah,
She knows, and but then she accepts it, and it's going to be very interesting to see how the relationship evolves from this point on, especially going into season two. But I think that there's just so much that goes into the decision that Joel made in that moment, and uh, just the way that he executed, and then so in the game when there's a whole part where he's carrying Ellie while she's passed out, and he's running to the elevator, and people and the leftover Fireflies are all shooting at him, and they're trying to gun him down, and the music is playing, and it's like a really like beautiful, well, tragically beautiful.
mm-hmm.
It's beautiful in a really really terrible way, if you know what I mean, right? And it's just when he gets to the elevator and then it closes, I thought that was like really artistically well done in the game, and I wish they kept that, but it's a very small complaint to have.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. The decision he made was very selfish, super selfish.
Oh, dude, yeah, absolutely, just so
I understand. I understand saving her, because she did not have the choice, and he actually makes that point when him and Marlene are in the garage, and he's like, "It's not for up to you to decide." She said, "It's not for you either, but it's up for Ellie to decide." And Marlene didn't give her the choice because Marlene's an idiot and she sucks. She's probably my least favorite character of the show. Anyway, uh, and it should be up to Ellie to decide, and they both took that away from her in a way. And then it was super selfish to lie to her because all he lied to her so that they could go try to live a happy, ever after life and in the little Tommy commune. Um, and that was it. And he just like, he doesn't want to lose someone else because he couldn't go through that again. He couldn't go
yeah.
through that again. Um, and I'm really curious to see how this, comes back to fruition in the second season. I'm so excited. I'm probably going to end up playing the games before the second, like because I had no idea when the second. I mean, I imagine this second season probably won't be till for 2 years. I would think they're going to take their time, which they should.
I
Um,
also just started the game again yesterday.
the first one or the second one?
First one.
First one. Nice, nice. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know.
So,
I talked a lot there. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about like just the whole hospital scene from start to finish, or?
uh, yeah, a couple things, right? So I love the way that he kills the two guys escorting him out. It's just right away the dude means
Yeah.
business. This is different. This is different than what he's been doing up till now.
Yep.
But also in the game there was only one, and in the show there were two. I don't know why they decided to give him two. It's like a crazy decision for me. Because up till now he's barely done anything that the video game Joel was capable of, and then here he takes out two guys right away.
Well, but it wouldn't be real, dude. She should have sent a whole squad to escort him out because she knows another dumb thing that Marlene did. She knows like what he can do, and to send one would be idiotic. To send two was not smart. You got to send like I would send five, dude. I would send five. And I would just like, they'd stay 10 feet away from, like, they stay like, no, there's guys in front of him, guys behind him, and they're all in their guns until he's gone, like gone. I mean, honestly, like it's just, yeah, you knew he was going to just kill
You,
everyone.
you got to give them his respect for sure.
Yeah.
um, but so for a while, uh, people didn't really want a second Last of Us game. So
Okay.
and I would probably agree because I have my own problems with the way that the narrative of the second game is held. But the ending to this was just so perfect for me. I would say for me, it's one of the greatest endings that I've ever seen across any medium.
Mm-hmm.
Just the moral complexity, but also the open-endedness, just leaving it all up to interpretation as to where their relationship goes from that point on. And just everything that goes into the final 20 minutes of the show. It was just so crazy, right? And like you said, he lies about everything that happened, right? The dude is going to try to take this to his grave,
Yeah.
right? And it's just you can tell that the way that Ellie says okay, the relationship's just not going to be the same. From this point on, it's just things are going to be different no matter what happens, right? And I'm curious to see how the second season really handles it. From what I've read, they're breaking the second game into two different games or two different seasons.
Yes, I
Um,
saw that too. It's not going to be one season. They know it's going to be at least two. And then I don't know after that I don't know the plan, but that's what I saw too. They're probably going to do in two seasons.
yeah.
Yeah. Cause they said, I read that there's some more narrative and some like bigger set pieces and stuff in the second game that they want to be able to do right for the rest of the show. So I'm excited. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, there's a couple of really controversial things that happened in the second one.
Mm.
So I want to see, I want to see if they're going to change it or, what I hope they do, to be honest with you. I hope they change a lot.
Okay. Well, let's so we do want to like have a wrap up podcast. So we'll figure out when we want to do that, but we want to like talk about the season as a whole, the show as a whole, the season as a whole, and kind of like where we think it's going and what we're excited for going forward in the next couple seasons. Maybe we'll do a couple fun things. I want to set up some some like Last of Us trivia because you've played the games and a lot. So I want to maybe try to find some to quiz you on. I think that'd be fun. So maybe we'll find some fun things to do and just kind of talk about the whole show and just everything as more of a as a whole, more of a macro discussion about it.
Sure.
But I think we had a lot to say about this episode, so I didn't want to try to force the season wrap up into this. Is why I really wanted to focus on this episode. So yeah, I don't think I have anything more to talk about the episode. Anything else from you?
Uh, it was a good episode. The ending was crazy. I'm glad they didn't change anything about the ending. It was awesome to finally see the person that Joel has been the whole game in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought of this when I was watching that scene. I was like, "Bife, this is like fan service for Bife. Like there's this one
Dude,
part."
no, if you're gonna do fan service for me, he would have killed a lot more people with his bare hands. All right.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Um, do you have anything, any recommendations for the fans for this week? For anything you've been watching or reading or anything really?
I'm watching an anime called Vinland Saga.
Heard of
Uh,
this? I've
really?
heard of this. Yeah, I've heard it's pretty good. It's on Netflix, right?
Yes, it is. The first season is absolutely amazing. The second season has been incredibly, unbelievably intriguing,
Okay.
and I would love to talk about it with you. The first season and the second season are very, very different, and I love shows that try to take things in a completely new direction, right? So
Mm-hmm.
very interesting to see the character growth. I would
And,
definitely recommend.
and the second season is going right now. Like it's in the okay.
It comes
Gotcha.
out every Monday.
Okay. Cool. 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 Awesome. I have so mine is going to be another HBO show, Succession. That this fourth and final season, as sad as I am to hear that, they decided to stop it at 4, is coming out. I think March 26th. Um, So for anyone who has not watched that, I highly, highly recommend it. It is probably one of it is one of my favorite shows of all time.
Oh,
I absolutely love it. I have been hooked since the very first episode. I think the characters are amazing and awful at the same time. It's basically like a dark comedy, kind of a dramedy, but it's just really well done and really interesting. There's 3 seasons right now. I think they're all like 10 episodes. And the fourth one's coming out March 26th, and that's their final season. So if you have not checked out Succession, I highly recommend checking it out. If you can, get through a lot of it and then catch up for this final season, that'd be awesome. But if not, I understand that too. It's a lot to watch, but yeah, that's my recommendation. Have you watched Succession?
oh, I might check it out now though.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Check it out. Everyone I've told about it has loved it. Like I haven't even people like even my parents who like they started watching it and they couldn't get into it. And then I was like, just stick with it. And then they loved it. They like basically binged it. So like all of my family's watched it. A bunch of friends who I recommend to watched it and loved it. It's a really good show. It's a really good show. Really well done. So
I'll try to check it out. Yeah.
check it out. Yeah.
Um,
But
Hey, did you see that Invincible, the trailer for the new Invincible season?
oh wait, is there an actual trailer? I saw like the teaser with him
Yeah.
and that alien dude sitting in the cafe. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
It's coming up.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. There's a lot of good stuff coming up. So I think maybe even next week too, we can talk about maybe what we're gonna cover coming up as well, because there's a lot of good stuff. So um
One more thing that we can try to cover.
yeah.
So One Piece, it's a very, very popular Japanese anime. It's about like a pirate crew, but Netflix is trying to turn it into a live action.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I am weirdly optimistic about it, even though anime live action so far have been terrible. But
Yeah, I mean
it's
they botched Cowboy Bebop, right? I didn't watch the live action, but
oh dude, yeah,
yeah, I did not hear good things.
that was terrible.
Yeah.
But this one, it could be different. So I'm pretty
Okay.
optimistic. But that comes out in the summer. So
Cool. Well, one of our someone who listens commented on one of our videos that they want to hear us actually talk about One Piece. So
I
um
love.
yeah, yeah. Shout out to them, and yeah, maybe we'll cover that. Maybe I'll have to watch it because I haven't. But
It's 1,000 something episodes.
oh
It,
wow, okay. Well
yeah.
then I don't know. Maybe maybe not. Maybe not. That's insane.
Dude, it's been going on since like I think like the 90s, like before we were born.
That's crazy, dude.
It's insane.
That is crazy. I've definitely heard of it like from multiple people about it from
Yeah,
multiple people.
yeah,
But wow, that's a commitment. Jesus. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like South Park or like The Simpsons. Like, geez.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It might be even more, honestly. But all right, everyone. Well, thanks for watching. If you like this episode, make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more content. And comment below about other movies or TV shows that you'd like to hear us non-critics criticize. We've really enjoyed covering The Last of Us. This has been a lot of fun the last 9 weeks. Doing this weekly. We do not only cover The Last of Us. We cover kind of anything we want to talk about and anything anyone else wants us to hear talk about that we've both seen. So we're definitely going to continue this. Podcast. I don't know if it'll be as regular of a cadence as weekly, probably not, but I think we're going to try to do it a little more like frequently than we have in the past and try to kind of get a regular cadence going and review and stuff. So we will,
TV shows, TV
yeah,
shows are good because
yeah,
it's something that comes out every week.
yeah, yeah. And like we said, we'll have a series wrap up, Last of Us, or sorry, season wrap up coming up probably maybe this weekend. I don't know. We'll have to talk about it. We'll have to talk schedule. So look for that as well. But all right, everyone. Well, that's it for us. Thanks. Bye.